So thanks for joining us again. For those that don't know me, my name is Claire Hockey. I'm the Recreation Participation Officer here at Manningham Council. Thank you for joining us tonight with Leisure Networks to discuss the topic of strategic planning for sports clubs. I'll just start our session by with an acknowledgement of country. Manningham Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as the traditional owners of the land and waterways now known as Manningham. Council pays respect to elders past, present and emerging, and values the ongoing contribution to enrich and appreciate the cultural heritages of Manningham. Council acknowledges and respects Australia's First Peoples as traditional owners of lands and waterways across country and encourages reconciliation between all. Manningham Council also values the contribution made to Manningham over the years by people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. So tonight we've got Andrew here. Andrew is from Leisure Networks. Andrew is quite fresh into this role, so it's exciting to have him here running through this session tonight. But yeah, Andrew, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, just a bit of background to myself. My name's Andrew Crowley. I work at Leisure Networks. I've been working in the sport and recreation sector for over 20 years. My background's in local government previously. I also worked in Deakin University for about 15 years and a bit of consulting. But from a sports perspective, I've been involved with sports since I was 10 years old. I'm very passionate about sport and I understand the commitment, the time, the effort that everybody here tonight puts into their own individual sports and their sports clubs. I just to give it a context, I might just get people to, if you can turn on your mic one at a time, and just give us a bit of an introduction of yourself and tell us about your club and maybe where your strategic planning is in your club. So if somebody could help me by starting that off. I'll stop sharing for one tick. Anybody want to help me? How about I name some people? I'll start with Jody. That's if you haven't used your kid's name when you're logged in. JT, can they can unmic themselves, Claire?
Yeah, they should be able to. Yeah.
Anybody help me out? Can you give
Hi, I'm Ian. I'm from the Doncaster Area Modelers Club. I'm quite new to the committee, but my understanding is, we've got a plan to sort of build facilities, and over the next 4 or 5 years, that's slowly coming along. But I'm just really interested to learn about how to do it properly. Thanks.
Yep, thanks for that. Jody said she's struggling to unmute. How about we go for Leanne, if you can unmute. Yep.
I'm muted. Yeah. There's a couple of us here from Doncaster Dolphins, so a very strong master swimming group where we do have a strategic plan at the moment. We've worked our way through it. We've got a great president in Caroline Clarkson and just great people on the committee. So we've been very, very strong in looking at our actions and reviewing it quite regularly at our committee meetings. Yep. But we're up for review next year, sorry, Caroline, I think it's next year. Anyway, so we really wanted an opportunity to look at.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing.
Caroline, got anything to add?
No, I think Leanne's pretty much covered it. Sorry, I'm fiddling around with my settings here because I can't actually see anybody.
The cameras are off. Yeah.
Okay, that's why.
That's for privacy.
It's a bit disconcerting because there's no visual cues. But yeah, as Leanne said, we actually did a session like this about 4 years ago, and then we've got a strategic plan 22 to 26. So, I guess we're interested to hear tonight, as well as just doing a original plan about going around that whole sort of redoing the strategic plan.
Fantastic.
And also probably I think be quite interested to discuss some of the metrics and things like that, because as we've worked our way through, there's some things that are very measurable And there are other things like, well, you've either done it or you haven't done it. You know what I mean? It's sort of, so how you sort of represent all that. So yeah, but that's it. So we've got myself, we've got Diane Lacar's DL, who's our treasurer, and we've got Kat Franks, KF, who's our secretary. So you've got all our office bearers here tonight.
Oh, wow. So
beautiful.
Really positions you very well. So Gaynor?
Hello, thanks for having your webinar tonight. I am a repeat offender on committees and have done a little bit of strategic planning as I've gone along. Jumping in on on the Warrandyte Junior Football Club committee in November, and the president and vice president are keen to just look at the direction going forward and being a little bit more proactive rather than reactive to things that come along, and that sort of dictating maybe funding opportunities and things like that. So here I think Duncan's about to jump in as well. He is just running a bit late.
Yeah, cool. Christine, you can get on.
We've got Jodie who's just said in the chat that they're from Templestowe Cricket Club and they need to complete their plan next year. So timing works out well.
And then Adrian?
Oh, yeah, I'm with the Park Orchards Steelers Basketball Club. I'm the president. I've taken over. It's been sort of my first 12 months with the club. So just wanting to sort of jump in here just to really get a bit of a base of, how to sort of put it together. We've had strategic plans in the past, but just mindful that I've, trying to now roll it out and, try and ensure that everyone gets buy-in and sort of build it collectively. So we've got an end goal.
Fantastic. I think that's everybody. We've covered everybody now, apart from Jodie couldn't get on. I'll go back to sharing now. So just before I do, I suppose strategic planning depends so much on the local context of your club, how big, how small, the environment around it. So tonight I'm just going to run through a bit of a framework that you can maybe learn from. And really, the main thing is actually to stimulate a conversation when you go back. So with the Dolphins, there's a few of you here. So hopefully that can actually just get you to talk about things, what's important to you, and how you might structure your plans. I'll just go back to sharing again. So just trying to go, sorry. Just about the session. So basically what we're going to do is talk about what is a strategic plan, why do a strategic plan, connecting to strategy, which I think I'll talk a fair bit about that. The benefits of a strategic plan, you'll probably know them, but it's still worth going through them. Separation of strategic to operational, setting objectives and goals, some resources and templates, some possible funding streams. We're also going to talk about a case where from a club, which I'll talk about from my club actually. So what is a strategic plan? Really, you're talking about the most high level document that guides your club. It's something that drives your future priorities. And then just listening to you all talk then, they change the priorities. So when the Dolphins, when you did yours in 2022, that's so long ago in terms of what life's like, because that's just coming out of COVID 2022. So everything has changed over the 5 years. Lots of things have changed in the environment, which affect it. And the plans sets out your aspirations, where you want to go to in the future. And also, it's always a big thing is to get all your members on the same page. So why? Is to establish a strategy. So it's that guides your priorities and provide a vision for your stakeholders. So it can also be a very external document to the partners you have. And one of those is government. So it's really important when you do your strategy that you look at the strategies around you, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And also the other thing is, it doesn't matter where you are, it's ensuring you've got continuous improvement. So as a club, you may be going through a growth phase, you may be, some may be declining, but it's actually so you can continually improve. And also, it can be a tool to gain funding for the future for your aspirations. And as I said, this is one of the biggest parts, is connecting your strategy to what's around you. So I think it's really important to understand the environment in Sport Recreation Victoria. So they're the funder of lots of things. Vic Health, which set a lot of principles for how sport should be provided. An example of that is a fair access planning at the moment. We might talk about that in a little while, but those two organisations set the strategies around sport. And then you've got just State Sporting Association. It's really important to be connected to them, what their priorities are, so that your plan can reflect them. So basically, you can go to their website, see what they've got as their priorities, and see where you as a club connect to their strategies. Because if you want it to be successful, it's really important to connect to that level. And then you've got the Manningham City Council reports. So the ones which we've got here is the council plan. So that'll set priorities from, that's 25 to 29. So with having a plan for the Dolphins there, which goes from 22 to 26, it's really timely. You can go back and look at the council plan and see how you can fit in that. And that once again helps you ensure that you're strategically connected in your plan is. So there are a couple of aspects in that, are the safe and healthy communities and the livable places and spaces. And then there's another one, which is the outdoor sports infrastructure allocations. So that is really important to your football club, so down at Warrandyte. And then also cricket, all those sorts of ones, because you're using their infrastructure. Basketball, growth happening everywhere. How are you going to connect with that? And the aspects in that which we've highlighted are equity, physical health, mental well-being, social cohesion, environmental sustainability, and multi-purpose use. So if you're smart with your strategy, you'll just run a lens over those and see what parts of your club that could actually be enhanced by some of those things. And then the other one is the Melbourne Eastern Region Fair Access Policy. So that's around infrastructure, scheduling, fair access around sport for women, knowing how many females you've got in your club, how you reward them, so celebrations, those sorts of things. So you basically, that's one of the first steps, is to grab those plans and have a look at them. And this is
Andrew, sorry,
yep.
I'll just jump in a sec. Caroline's just asked, do you want, if they've got questions, to ask them as we go, or do you want them to be saved for later on?
Why don't we ask some now, because we'll do a stop and hold on that part. It's obviously a question. Yeah.
If you've got a question, Caroline, go for it.
Well, I was actually just going to ask you, Andrew, about the optimum length of a strategic plan, because obviously we set ours at 5 years, because it's like, it's a fairly major undertaking, and we're a relatively small club with volunteers. But as you quite rightly identified, when we put this together, we were just coming out of COVID, so there were some sort of priorities up front. And now we're entering into a phase where the facility that we use within Manningham is actually going to be out of action for like 18 months, 15 to 18 months from next year. So we've sort of got to modify the end of our plan to actually fit with that. So, and then of course the council plan's 25 to 29. So should we really be looking at a 3-year plan with maybe a refresh, or is it still reasonable to go 5 years but just be a bit agile within that?
Yeah, so I was going to cover that a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah,
but
that's fine.
No, it's okay. It's a good time to talk about it. I think what you just said then, a 3-year plan, and then it reviewed with a 5-year across 5 years, but a 3-year review is a very smart thing. It depends because you can a year while you're going through transition, like you're talking about. That really affects your strategic plan, and you need to be, you do need to be agile and change them as they go. So, I think 3 to 5 is what I come up with a bit later. So, any other questions before we leave these slides? They also show how rapidly things are changing. Like it's a lot for volunteers to get their heads around. So you don't need to read the whole thing. You just try and pick up the bits and pieces which are important to you. So this is a process which I sort of designed when I thought about how I run through a strategic plan process, and it's as you're saying, Caroline, just before with the sort of timing, it's a flow that I've got here. So first part is some of you, most of you seem to have a plan in place. So it's either develop or review your current strategy. And that first one there is about researching the environment. So that starts with your strategy around you. But that can be changes in population. So that could be where you are situated. The demographics could be changing. They could be getting younger. They could be getting older. It could be more multicultural. Those sorts of things. You have a look at your local environment and see what's happening then. The engagement part, I'm just trying to remember who said that. It might have been Adrian, where the engaging with your stakeholders, that's within your club, but also externally is a really important part of it. So you're making sure that we're all on the same page. And then you go into the design phase after you've engaged. So you've researched, then you start designing. And that's when you develop, once you've got your sort of actions, you develop your time frame and timelines. So that's when you make that decision. Is it 3? Is it 5 years? And then one thing that people can, we're all very busy, but remembering to promote the strategy is really important to your stakeholders, because if you're working with local government, it could actually be the trigger for them to support you on something. It also can be for grants and those things like community grants. And then, as you said before, Caroline, then there's the annual review. So some of the structures I think are good to have in your plan. I think it's really important that you've got your governance right, so you understand who's leading the club, that you've got your committee structured the right way in the subcommittees. So getting that governance part right's part of a plan, and then also identifying your leaders. So that's a really interesting one across the 3 to 5 years. They may change. So, but you do need leaders. You must have people who are leading the club or the association, and identify who they are, and then that they can be part of the actions. I've got participation in your plan. You have a governance part, a leadership part, a participation part. So that's, once again, it depends. That can change significantly. So you could have membership which is getting really large, and you've got to try and find ways to look after all those members. In the case of where you're not going to have a facility for you, how do you manage your participation when you don't have that facility? And the other aspects I've got in I think a good plan is to have a financial plan. You've got to have that. Facilities, how you're managing what facilities you've got, and then more and more having inclusion and fair access part of your plan. So what are you doing to be inclusive, welcoming club? Because that really means you're a good club, but also that you're perceived to be a good club. And then the other part of it is your partners. So they may be financial partners such as sponsors. They may be your local government. It may be particular ones which are interested in the club to support you. So so that's sort of things that you may want to think about in your plan. And I think it's a good way would be to just map it like that. You may not have the same things, but if you mapped it, it would be a really good idea. Any questions there? Comments? No, I'll move on then. So in the plan, one of the first things is getting your objectives right. So it's important to have those aligned to your overall vision in your objectives. Have a time frame. Objectives are a bridge between your vision. So what you have your vision, and then you objectives are how you achieve that, and your critical areas of focus. So just looking through some of the clubs. So the football club, what's your focus? Some, could be just on highly focused on competition. Others may be on more social sports. So maybe AFL 9s, those sorts of things. It's the same with cricket. Cricket's got a lot of change. You've got the traditional cricket, which is over the normal set days. Do you need to broker into other markets, have other things which you're wanting to do? So critical areas of focus may be for cricket to have some people from other cultures involved. And then focused on improvement for objectives. So it's best to, if you're really doing well, you don't have 20 objectives. 3 to 5, which are really focused. And then I'll give you a couple of examples there. So it may be increasing your membership by, improving your efficiency through, or improving environmental impact by, enhance your members' experience by. And then I suppose looking back at that third one of those, the environmental impact, council and other stakeholders are very interested in that. So what can you do? Maybe simple things like having no balloons, so the balloons don't, plastics don't go into the sea, and those sorts of things. And then your goals, it's goals are designed by, such as increasing participation. It may be to increase revenue, improve processes. So clubs, that's a really good one to do a stop and hold on. If you're doing a new plan, what are your processes been like within the club? Have they been clunky? Could they be improved? Technology changes. Do you need to improve them from a technology perspective? And then another example of a goal might be welcoming new communities. You've probably all seen these before, but SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And that's why you do those annual reviews, to see how you've gone with them. I think this is one thing which everybody can struggle with. Doesn't matter how good your club is separating strategy from operational. So strategy is about planning, direction, partnerships for the future, and then operational is that day-to-day. Now, it's so hard not to get sucked down into the day-to-day and the delivery, even if you're doing strategy. So it's important to work out who's got that skill set in that strategy, and to try as much as you can to stop them having to do the operational stuff. Otherwise, they don't get to do the strategy. Just might do a stop and hold there. Has anybody got any comments about that, about separating strategy from operation? Oh, keep going. Here's a case study. So when I talked to Claire about it, I thought we thought it might be good to just talk about what I've done. So this is Torquay Hockey Club. So the history of the hockey club is, this is the one that started from scratch, from grassroots. The first team was 2010. For those of you who know hockey, it's all played on synthetic surfaces. None of it's played on grass. But we wanted to start a community club in Torquay, 45 minutes from the closest venue. And that photograph sort of demonstrates the type of kids that we started with. One team, which was mainly girls. And what we started with was all borrowed equipment. So basically it was, so this is our strategy. So the strategy was to start as grassroots and grow. So the first year here, you've got the club in orange there. All the uniforms were purchased just off the shelf, so no specific stuff. So it's super cheap to make it easy and accessible for kids to play. Every stick was given out of lost property from another club. Balls, all equipment was given to us for free. And then we just went for grants. So basically no money in the account to start, and then grants. and then that started in 2010, and this is us now in 2015. We've been very focused on female participation. So I've just been doing work on the fair access for our club, and it's virtually it's say 55% female, 45% male, and that's an example of one of our strategies, which is to recruit from the university. So all those students are virtually from Deakin University, but we've worked very, very hard to try and be inclusive to the students. Another strategy of that is fee structure, to have a student fee, which is a lot cheaper for students to play, and that's helped us build the club. Another one that we've had has been welcoming inclusion. So we call it out in our strategy, and also demonstrate it in our images. So that's the front page of the website. Zakali there, who's on the left-hand side, he is a refugee from Africa, grew up in Torquay, and he's one of our examples of success to us, which is he's become a lifelong hockey player. So he came into our under-8s program, and now he's never stopped, and he'll continue to play forever. He loves it. On the right there is a guy called Trevor. He's an international student who came in from Zimbabwe this year, and once again gave him all his stuff. And he has never played a game of sport before, in hockey, sorry. And that's sort of examples of trying to make us inclusive. And then another thing, with strategy wise, is retention. So for us, our issues locally is we're losing heaps and heaps of people at from 15 to 17, and young men is one of the people that we're losing. So what we did was set up a father-son team. So it helped us two ways strategically. One, retain our younger males, and two, bring some people back to the game. So actually, that image is to show you that it was actually a strategic thing that was in our planning process, and it's helped us strengthen ourselves. Another thing that we've done, which also demonstrates around that inclusion, is we've got Indigenous uniforms design, and the artist in the middle near the artwork, his name's BJ O'Toole, local, as part of the Watherong community, and we got a grant for him to do the artwork, which came to the shirt. And where they're standing now is going to be a ground in the future. It's actually been constructed at the moment. I'll talk about that. But it's really helped us with our inclusion and in welcoming our Indigenous hockey players. So there's probably it's been 4 or 5 in the club at different times. And then just talking about that strategy again, in this case study, this shows how long it takes to actually to strategically, if you're going to have a big facility or something, if it's a pavilion, change rooms or something, you need to have a long-term view to it. So in this case, the first presentation to council was 2013. We then got it integrated into a regional hockey strategy, gained the support of the Hockey Australia, Hockey Victoria, then council for a feasibility, precinct master plan, if you look at the years, and then funding in 24 for a 25 construction. So it shows you it's over 12 years to get a process like that going from a case study perspective. So we just thought we'd share that with you because it's a case of showing how the strategy is connected to action. So we might just to talk about your club, and after we've now just gone through that part, to give us a bit of feedback on what do you think the big things are for your strategy in your club, and what's emerging. So we might start with the Dolphins because there's a few there. If one of the Dolphins can tell us where you think you're at and what you think might be important in the next strategy.
I can do that if you like, but others can chip in because I'm sure I'll forget something. I mean, we actually had our goals sitting above our objectives. So we actually had 4 goals in our last strategic plan. One was around membership, and particularly with a focus on attracting younger swimmers to the club.
Yes. Yep.
We had training and competition,
Yep.
governance, which included, our external relationships, document management, healthy financial position, and risk management. And then we had social, which is partly because, that is a key part of our club. It's not just about swimming and competition. There's a very strong social network, and also about preserving the club's history and milestones. So there were our sort of 4 high-level goals that we had, and then we had a whole lot of objectives that sat underneath them.
Yeah. Do you think much has changed?
Well, I mean, when we first started, as I said before, we were coming out of COVID, so a lot of it was around retaining members, getting members back, getting everybody engaged again, which sort of we knocked off pretty quickly, to be honest. And in fact, our membership now is considerably higher than it was pre-COVID. And, as I say, a lot of the stuff most of the stuff we have ticked off. We actually had a look at it at our last committee meeting, and most of the things we have actually done. Some of the things that we haven't managed to do really have stalled because of the facility redevelopment. And there's sort of things it's not really worth getting stuck into, things like trying to build a relationship with the junior club to actually sort of progress members from junior to senior. We've done a little bit of that, but there's no point in doing things like that when we're all going to be potentially swimming at different times in different places. So some of those things we've just said, look, we'll park those and we'll roll them over into the next plan. But overall, I think we're going pretty well. Happy for, like, Leanne is our vice president, or Di or Kat to add into those.
No, I think you've covered fairly well. The other two might, but it certainly will be around membership moving forward.
And is there potential you'll lose members through the redevelopment?
Yes.
There is, but we hope not.
But we could end up gaining members if we're training in other venues. We could attract other members from there. And also just looking at what you've done on that example with the different uniforms, we could create something exciting to wear in the transitional period. Or I think we need to make the relocation where we're going to be swimming something interesting. So that's something we could think about. Well, it's probably more operational than strategic, but yes, instead of looking at it as a problem, we need to turn it into something that's exciting.
Yeah. I think the look and feel of your club actually is strategic. So your website, what you reflect in your website, how you look, your uniforms, your merchandise, all those things can be integrated in a strategy, because it's it's what perception. It's perceptions. So it's how you're perceived within your club. That social aspect. How others perceive you.
We just upgraded our website thanks to Kat, who's on here. And,
well done.
But the uniform is certainly something that maybe we can work on with the whole transitional period. Yeah. Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done, as Diane said, we've done quite a bit of work around our comms. So, the website, WhatsApp group, just trying to sort of get a more strategic way of managing our communications, because we've got lots of different ways of communicating, but to try and sort of bring them together. And that is obviously going to be a really major issue when people potentially aren't in the same place as much as they are currently based at Aquarina.
Yeah, that's obviously, I reckon, when you're going through the redevelopment, it's great you spent some time on that, and it's and they're the sort of things you sometimes you can do, but not actually have it in your strategic plan, when actually you should be. That's where your next little emphasis is. It's good to highlight it, and it doesn't have to be things which are problems. It can actually be successes. So just because you've done doing it well doesn't mean you can't celebrate. Can be celebrating it, and Oh, that's interesting. So, and you've also got a risk element because of the facility change. Yeah. Thanks for that, Dolphins. What about Templestowe Cricket Club, Adrian?
Well, I'm with the Park Orchard Steelers.
Oh, so I mucked that up. I've got my
Yeah,
name wrong.
that's all good.
I
I think that was Jody whose
Yeah,
mic's not working. So, but look, I'll talk to a piece of what we're doing. I mean, it sounds like the Dolphins are a lot more advanced in terms of where we're at and sort of my position. But for us, one of the big aspects is growth, is what we're focusing on,
Yes.
especially with the younger basketball kids coming through,
Yes.
particularly reaching out to sort of kindergartens and primary schools and developing relationships there.
Yeah.
We've also got one of our focus areas is girl participation as well.
Yep.
There's been more favoritism towards a lot more boys than girls sort of taking up basketball. So trying to have a bit more focus around how we have more inclusion from that perspective. Also, I think similar to the hockey, we have big drop-offs sort of when kids get to that sort of 15, 16, 17-year age gap, because a lot of our basketball games are on Saturdays and they want to work on those days, so they're having to make a choice.
Yes.
So trying to sort of work in around how we, still keep them actively involved, maybe not in that comp, but doing something sort of like a midweek from a strategic point of view. And then the other thing is community participation as well. So just getting members to understand that I think people want to help, but they don't know how to put their hand up, but just creating a sort of a bit of a framework that, we need all hands on deck, but, this is what we're looking at and this is how we're trying to roll it out. So there's a bit there, and there's a bit that we need to sort of pull out in terms of setting some clear goals and objectives around those aspects, but that's sort of the areas that we're focusing on.
Yeah, cool. It's I think that's a really wise idea to look at competition structures if you've got if you're losing young people. It's a very good idea to do that, because it can be a barrier. And also the other thing is that this is going to be my own personal belief, but a lot of bosses aren't that necessarily kind to young people who are around shifting. So they'll say, if you miss the shift that day, I'm going to cut your hours. You're a casual. I'll give them to somebody else. And then they have to choose between. Like I played a grand final last week, and one of my students just texted me the day before, says, I haven't got the day off. I go, what? He said my boss wouldn't let me play. I went, okay. No,
yeah. I mean, I had something similar. We had something similar where we've got, a basketball game that's supposed to go on. We had other kids who were playing footy as well, and that's part of the challenge.
Yes.
The footy team had a grand final on the weekend, and they didn't want to turn up to the basketball game because the footy grand final is more important. So it's just sort of working through those things and still integrating with other sports, but still showing sort of good pathway with sort of what we do. Yeah.
So Templestowe Cricket. Jody's just made a comment. You got that one covered there, Claire? What's
what's Jody got here? We need to set communications as a goal. So marketing and socials, keeping our school relationships, and keep working on retention of players and retention of all juniors through to seniors as well. We've just developed a logo, a new logo, I think. So all of the promotions need updating and changing. So that's a pretty big thing to have in your plan for sure. The rollout of a new look to your club.
Yeah.
And then there's one there from Glenn, which I'll read. Doncaster Baseball has over 50 years of history in Manningham, and post-COVID and post great new club rooms. Yes, we're in a new phase in building a more modern club, focused on community families, supporting players, growing and supporting our juniors, have a very strong women's program, which is recognised nationally, winter and summer, and much growth and recruitment of juniors. We had a very successful first come and try 2 weeks ago, but we need to put together a better strategic plan. Many new board members have supportive experience to achieve this. I think that's some of the things that I see is, clubs will, some instances, pull together a plan. It's only one person that's actually leading the development of that plan, and then it sort of gets left on the shelf and it's not sort of promoted to the to the wider club. So it's to hear that you've got, Glenn, the support of other committee members to develop a plan together is good. That's, yeah.
So, Glenn, how many members have you got? So you can just type it into the chat. Yeah, 160. Yeah. So it's I think once you get over 100, it's a lot of people can communicate with. What about the Dolphins? How many members the Dolphins got?
We've got 120 at the moment, which is actually about. For many years, we were sort of running around the 90 to 100, but so 120. We've never had 120 members before, so we're going pretty well.
And do you have competitive pathways? Are some of them competing at high levels?
Yeah. So we've got people. We had some people that were at World Championships last month, or in July or August, whenever they were. So we've got people from that. People that are doing national, state level, inter club, and we also have a significant proportion of our club who just swim for fitness and the social side of things. So it's a fairly broad group. So whilst we encourage people to compete, we know that probably at least a third of our membership just don't want to do that. They want to swim for fitness, and physical and mental health. Yeah.
What about Ian down with your aero modelers?
Yeah, we've got about 100 members, so I feel like only about half of those are really active. I don't believe we have a written plan at all, though there's obviously a strategy in the mind of our president and vice president. And I think one of the things, like you were talking about, is this leads to very poor communication of what the future of the club is to the members. We've had a bit of sort of internal argy-bargy from people, and possibly because they just didn't really know where things were going. So I think we could learn a lot from having a decent plan, because we're doing lots of great things. We're really involved in This Girl Can and that sort of stuff, and not that we have a very high percentage of women members, unfortunately, or young members. We are, the probably big difference with us is our average age is probably closer to 60 as opposed to 16 in some of the other clubs. So I've got a lot out of it today. Looking forward to
but it still is relevant. So your sport is your sport. So some are male based, some are female based as well. So it's not necessarily. But it's more just making sure that you know yourself and what you want to do. And it's great you do This Girl Can. It's fantastic. And also, I suppose the thing to take back, I think, from you, Ian, is if there isn't a strategy, you don't have to write 50 pages. It could be, in your case, it could be a page or 4 pages. That hockey club, which I showed you, that's about 6 pages. And it was very very much just equity and diversity. This facilities obviously was a big part of it, but it was very much just very and time frames. So across those the last 5 years, and just to let you know, with those we have to everything when it changes comes with more work. So with the Dolphins. That change of facilities is going to be more work. So in that case, getting a new facility in the hockey club's case, it's a whole different type of work. We're going to have to work with other associations, and also it's surrounded by a soccer club, a football club, and netball club as well. So then and neighbours. So we're going to deal with all those stakeholders. So our strategic plan needs to be, okay, we've got here. Now what are we going to do to make sure that it works well? And I think I started by saying that when I was before I was going to present, sport is quite hard work. It's continuous, and it takes a lot of commitment and leadership. So I imagine some of you have been in this for a long time. So there are volunteers out there who 15, 20 years straight. So it takes a lot of commitment, but change does happen. So that's why strategy really helps. I might just share my screen again. Yeah, so just the last bits is we've got some funding streams that we for you. So the first one is the Manningham City Council grants. So they're a good way to build your club up with small things. Quite often they're sort of up to $5,000. Claire, how much are yours?
Our small grants that run annually, you can get up to $3,000, I believe.
Yeah.
And then we've got our other grants that are larger than that. And then I also know off the top of my head that they tend to have 2 openings for the Sport and Rec Sporting Club grants. So they usually, I think they have an offer earlier in the year, which has been, and then they usually have one around the end of the year too. And that those specific grants have actual funding for clubs to apply to get assistance for creating strategic plans. So that's a really good specific stream as well, which when that does become available, I'll certainly share that around with all of our clubs. And then I think you had on there Andrew, the Grant Guru. Yeah, that's a great resource to keep up to date on all of your grants. And
so from a small club that's been built from nothing, that case study started with goalkeeping equipment, so you can get them around safety. Absolutely, the safety is a good thing to apply for. So anything, so defibs, those sorts of things can be grants. So smaller ones, which are up to $3,000, you always go, well, can we snag a grant from that? Some funding streams through like Bendigo Bank, Belong. There's just look around for local ones. And the council ones are always good if you can reflect the things which are in their council plan. So that's where you go back to that strategy piece and go, well, this matches active communities, or it matches some of the terminology you got in there, and write those grants around those sorts of things. But definitely uniform changes if they're strategic. So if you just go, we want more uniforms, no. But if you go, in that case of the Indigenous ones, we just specifically designed it around getting grants, and we've built it every time. So from council, and we've just got some through Sport Creation Victoria, where we've reversed it. So we've got when we play against each other, we've got an Indigenous strip for those sorts of things. If any examples of people getting grants?
Yeah, I can speak to that. We've actually had grants in the past from Bendigo Bank. We used to run a program once a year called Swim for Life, which was to encourage people that weren't actually swimming in a squad to come along and try it out. We've sort of put a pause on that for now because we sort of felt like it had done its time. We'd done it for quite a few years, and we just wanted to have a look at a bit of a different way of doing it. But that was, very well supported by Bendigo Bank. So that was one example. Di, have we had some others?
Yeah, we've had the Master Swimming Australia grant for total rebranding of signs and signage. And increasing our image up to like a national MSA level. And we have had council grants in the past, but I think that was before my time, and so I'm not quite sure what it was for. And
we also had that one. We also got that one from the state, one of the state government bodies for professional development for our coaches.
Oh, that's right.
As well. So we've had a few in the last. I mean, there are a lot of work. That's the thing. There are a lot of work to put them in, but when you can get a few successes like that, it's worthwhile.
And especially when they can fill gaps, you're going to have to fund anyway. So if you can find something which is, you're going to have to spend that money, but then shift it so that it's can be you can turn into a grant. But they are work because you've got to equip to them, and then it depends on what you promise. So if you promise, you've got to deliver. So they can be working that way. There's something else in the chat there, Claire?
Yeah, Glenn's just said that they've had a number of grants over the years, including from Council for Manningham. They've also had, I think this is to have written their grants, maybe. They've received some help from Club Builder, which is a consultant, we'll call, I guess. That works with clubs to help apply for grants and, get that sort of the wording and connecting it back to other strategies can be really helpful.
So they're Grant Builder, a private mob, and they will help you write a grant, either for fee for service or sometimes it could be off the grant, but most grants they won't allow that. So, but if you think of the investment, if there's a few $1,000s to help somebody write a grant for you and you can get quite a bit of money, it's a good investment. So it's and I think that's one when in the presentation when we talked about strategy and operations, separating them. If you can find somebody who's a good grant writer and just say you don't need to do anything else in the club, it's write our grants, it's really worth a lot to you. So if you pull someone like that down so they're using all their time in other places, I think that's one of the things I've learned is to try and support your people who are supposed to be doing strategic work to do that and not get bogged down by operational things because it's hard work getting all that stuff done. So if you're doing both, you're going to struggle. So, that's good. Any other examples of grants?
So, Andrew, I was going to ask a question just with the Steelers. We've recognised for our uniforms, for example, they've all been designed for boys, and we need to actually have a girls' uniform, which is a work in progress. There's a few things on a play there, but I was interested to get your take on whether that would be sort of classified under sort of like an inclusion sort of aspect, and would you refer to? Would you need to go back to the sort of regional sports and recreational fair access?
That's a type. So with fair access, you've got a fair access plan that you'd be developing. So you might know about it, but there's so for the Steelers, it depends on, do all the clubs have to have it or just ones in venues? Claire, do you know?
So as a council, we've got now a fair access policy, and from that policy, it feeds down to our clubs, and we've got certain actions that we need to achieve as part of that policy. So clubs don't at this minute have to have a fair access policy, but we have embedded our fair access policy into our other I guess everyday council strategies and policies. So I guess to get a grant for this particularly, if that's what you wanted to do, being able to link this project back to fair access and inclusion, which this absolutely does, because if you've got if you've got female appropriate uniform, it's absolutely going to be that's more inclusive for women and girls. So there's certain links there, and I would be linking that to fair access, inclusion. Absolutely.
So you my advice would be grab the council fair access plan, have a read of it, find some words, and then when you're writing your grants, put the terminology in there. And then also it's grants are a story. So tell the story that it's going to actually impact how many girls, and it also could lead to a higher participation for females as well, because uniforms are really important. So it actually can lead to increases in participation. For sure. I think that's a really strong grant. I'll be looking around for that.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else with grants stuff? I'll go back to the presentation then. So I might just go back and talk to that one. So I think where we're at is that if you've start to look at your plan and start to do that research, what you've learnt tonight, you can start to think of what that impacts in terms of your environment, and then start to design those next phases. So even if you have started, just go back and have a bit of a review, or we've got your plan, and just from learning some tonight, and just have a quick look at it, and then and also define those things around what you believe is and needs to be in your plan. Yeah, so most of those things we've gone through the case study. And then, yeah, so we've got some resources. So basically, Claire you're going to share the presentation afterwards?
Yep, so I will send through these slides. I'll hopefully get the recording up of tonight.
Yeah.
There's a couple of templates and things I'll send through to you all as well.
Yeah. Great. Claire, we'll probably take the case study out if that's okay, because I haven't got permission to circulating those. So, but it's because it's been for the workshop purposes. So, but yeah, those have all got hyperlinks on them when you get it. So there's the resource hub, Club Help, which is a Leisure Networks page. It's pretty a little bit sort of doesn't look really cool, but there's a lot of resources in there, so it needs to be updated. And then there's some other things there, which is just talking about some of the resources. So Leisure Networks can help with some strategic work if you want to go get a grant to help you. As I said, there's other consultants out there. And then the state sporting associations, they love it actually. If you connect with them, if you've got something that you want to do that makes their sport better, they'll love it. And it will also help you strategically when you're trying to roll your plan out. Also within it, you'll have Claire's details in there and mine when you when Claire sends it out. So any questions from anybody?
I was just going to say as well, Andrew, just that in my role at council, I am certainly here to assist with this type of work. So, you know, if you feel you're a bit lost in terms of what you should be including in your plan, or you just want to have an open discussion about, you know, where your club wants to go and you need support in planning how to get there, I'm absolutely available to come and have a chat with with all of the committee or with whoever it might be. So I'm definitely a resource here and that you can tap into. So yeah, so please do.
And that's a great offer, because you can that could be at any part of it. So that could be at the start when you're starting. Even if you're talking about the framework, what the main framework things are.
Be looking over it, looking over it at the end if you've pulled it together and you just want, so I'm here. So please, please fill my days.
Can I ask a question? Just this, Adrian from the Steelers here. So our club, we're set between sort of 350 to 400 members participation wise. Pre-COVID, we're probably sitting around that 600 mark. As I said, we're in a bit of a growth phase. From a communication point of view, because communication is a piece on its own from a strategic perspective, have you got any, I mean, I know that you've mentioned some resources there, but do some of those resources relate just back to sort of communication with members and sort of promoting the club through socials and different avenues? I'm just curious to, benchmark, what the best sort of way to go about that would be.
Good question. It's forever changing, isn't it? Really, because I don't know what platforms people use. I know that we use TMAP in our club, and it's Rev Sports, the association one. What I can say, I suppose, is that is to try and keep as little, keep it disciplined. So from an organisational perspective, if you look at organisations, they have people really controlling clubs. The hard part when you've got 300 to 400 members like you have is them doing their own thing. And that can, when you talk about inclusion, that can be really dangerous. setting their own chat groups up, excluding people when they set their chat groups up, setting up something social, which is not what the club wants. So I think it's to me, your comms plan needs to be about discipline and minimising different channels. That's just my feedback. Anybody else got anything to say about that? But it's a good thing to have in your strategy and decide which way you're going to go, and then have structure in it, and learn from others. Learn from the down my way. We've got big surf clubs. So they have a lot of members, over 1,000. So we learn from them. They're pretty. They need to do a lot of communication. Anybody else got any comments on that? Help Adrian out.
That's not a bad point, Andrew, about maybe having a conversation with another basketball club within Manningham or out of Manningham to see how they possibly do it. Basketball, Vic, it could be worth having a conversation with the participation officer there as well. I've got a contact, Jody. I don't know if she's the one, but like I could certainly ask and try and seek out some resources from them and get some things for you, Adrian, if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
appreciate it. And thanks, Andrew. I take on board sort of the learnings from the comms need to be disciplined and speaking to other clubs as well. So that's great. Yeah. That's really useful.
Yeah. And once again, I'll talk about Sport Ben Hart. That's one of the hardest bits because comms can go all over the place. And as we've said with the Dolphins, what a tough gig it's going to be for you over the next period of time when you haven't got a venue and people are all over the place. But I loved what I don't know which one of you said. Is that's a great opportunity. It turns adversity into opportunity. So really positive way to look at it. The Dolphins, what you're going to go through. Any other comments? Okay, I just had to head off.
Andrew, I was just going to ask you about when you get to that point of redoing the strategic plan. So, I mean, I guess, there's a piece for the committee to do around, looking at what we've got currently, what we've achieved, what sort of ongoing needs to be rolled over, what are some of our new risks and issues, and obviously you've just spoken about one of them. What about membership engagement? I think our members are reasonably engaged, but when you get to stuff like strategic plans, everybody goes a bit blazed. How do you recommend, like when we're doing that transition from current to a new plan, about engaging the members?
Yeah, I think probably my advice would be to minimal on words. So it might be like those two. When I did that presentation, I had some bubbles and then some processes. You could almost have your old strategic plan in some bubbles. And then if you think you're going to be moving to new things, you have that. So you go, this is what we had an old strategic plan, and this is what we believe we're going to move to in the new one. We'd like to, you have your input. So I'd keep it minimalist in the amount of words. And but if there's new things which are changes, I'd make it really clear what the changes are. So, and if it is sort of increased participation, you call it out. So I'd probably do it in a 1 page or a 2 page that's really simple, and infographics would be my feeling. And then because they don't need to go into the words and the detail. The way I suppose I look at it is that you have people with different minds. So some like simplicity. Some are visual people, that's me. Some other people like the detail. You still need to have the detail that you can give to the people who love it. So whilst you might be, the first phase is you're doing some simple things, and then you're going into your detail as you're finishing, you still need to have that that opportunity for people to have who love that detail to have their input. There's not many of them around. Most people are happy to trust you, but it is good to have that. So, my probably advice would be simple, but then have the detail behind it.
Yep. Okay.
What do you think, Claire?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it could look like a way to engage. It could be a survey that you put out with you know, a 1-2 pager which paints the picture of sort of what your old plan was, where you're looking to go, that they can provide feedback on, because
Yeah.
I think there might, you know, doing the engagement with your members, they might actually come up or identify maybe
Yeah.
an area that maybe whoever was planning the plan hadn't thought of. And so trying to capture that data from your members, I think, is important for sure. And yeah, that could be in the form of a survey. It could be, I don't know, in the form of bringing people together in one room and sort of doing a bit of a presenting it to them. Yeah, that could look like a number of different things. And that I've got some resources on engagement that I'll send out off the back of this as well, in terms of how to engage and get that feedback and get your members on board as well. Yep.
Good. Well, I think we're pretty good, aren't we, Claire? Is there anything else you want to cover?
No, if there was no other questions. No, if you've got any questions that pop up after this, again, please shoot me through an email, and I'm happy to help.
Yeah. So, but it's a great investment in your time to come along, and good on you for spending a weeknight talking about strategic planning, and hopefully you'll be able to influence your new strategic plans, and it's worth it. But the one thing I probably should finish on is if you've got a good plan, it'll give back to you. It'll really help you with success. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Claire and Andrew. It was good.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks
Right.
guys. Appreciate it.